by themselves. Oh, I don't need the church. Oh, I don't need to fellowship. I could just read my Bible. I could just watch YouTube, or I could just hear my devotions from the internet or online. I mean, I could grow spiritually by myself. If you have this thinking, then I would like to pop the bubble that it is wrong. The only way we could grow is when we are together. That's why God created, in His infinite wisdom, the church. So we could grow together. Because no one will grow spiritually if we are outside the church. And you might be telling, hey, Pastor, I mean, church is a hustle. You have to be there. You have to dress up. You have to smile. Even if you don't feel like smiling, you have to give them, oh, I'm okay. But deep inside me, I'm not okay. See, if you have this notion of that kind of a church, then you're in the wrong church. Because a church is where you will always feel accepted for who you are. Your past, your present, and even your future. Together we grow. Let me just go through the verses here. I'd like to focus on verse 1. As a prisoner for the Lord, then I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. As a prisoner for the Lord, then I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. Now, urge is a strong word. Urging. It's a very powerful word being used. We are being urged to live a life worthy of the calling that we have received. That calling is God make us children of God, and that is the calling we have in the Lord. Now, urging, live a life worthy of the calling you have received. Now, there are parents and there are kids in the church. I understand that. And sometimes, I don't know if it is true today, but back in our days when we were growing up, the behavior of the kid is a reflection of a parenting. I don't know if that's still true. Do you agree? The behavior of the kid reflects the parents. So if the kid is rude, bastos, walang ya, it reflects what? The parents. I think when the Apostle Paul mentioned that, I urge you Christians, I urge you brothers, I urge you sisters, live a life worthy of your calling, because your life reflects Jesus who died for you. When we were, every time we have a discussion with Lisa, she always dropped the bomb, you know? Lagi nga sinasabi, and when she dropped the bomb, wala na. Tameme na. When she used that word, that's it. That's the end of the argument. And you know what's that statement? We were raised that way. I could say a lot of verses. I could say a lot of counter arguments, and I could say all of this. And when she mentioned that we were raised that way, it's a powerful, powerful statement. The way we behaved is a reflection of our parents. So kids, if you behave in a manner that is unworthy of the calling of God, you have to remember also that it reflects your parents. Number one, I'd like for you to remember, we grow in our obedience. We grow in our, wow, that's a good thing, huh? We grow in our obedience. Christ's followers are to live in a manner worthy of being called a child of God. We've been adopted into God's family, and we're to bring joy, glory, and honor to God. We grow in our obedience. If we keep on disobeying God, we will not grow. I hope there is a silver bullet in growing in our spiritual life. I hope there is a single medicine you just inject yourself and boom, you are a mature Christian. You think, you speak, you behave, reflects Jesus Christ. I hope there is an injection, or there is a peel, or there is a hypnotizing mechanism to make all of Christians like that. But the reality is there is none, and there will never be anything like that. The only way that we will learn to reflect the likeness of Christ is by going through life and embracing our mistakes, letting us to grow and learning from that and moving on. We grow in our obedience because obedience is the only way that will make us mature, a strong Christian. And sometimes, I know, Pastor, there are times that it is really, I understand that, it's really difficult to obey God. There are times they're just too difficult to obey God. Worship, in the area of money, worshiping God. Pastor, if you just know how much I earn, how could I give money to the church when my money is not even enough for me to pay the bills? And I understand that. Your bills is 1,000, you earn only 800 this month. Kulang pa. And how could I give money to the church when my money is not even enough to cover all my expenses? And then there are a lot of things, relationship. Hey, Pastor, nobody's courting me. There's no Christian in school or Christian in the office place that is courting me. All of the guys courting me are not Christians. Area of finance, area of relationship, area of parenting, all kinds of areas in our lives. I know it's difficult to obey God, but one thing I could say this morning, there is no other way. No other way. Imagine Moses, when Moses was confronted by the Red Sea, and the Egyptian army, the most powerful army in the world back then, were behind them. And Moses, and Moses is in front of a Red Sea, and this entire almost 2 million Israelites in his leadership and in his responsibility. And God says, Moses, put the stick in the Red Sea, and the Red Sea will part its ways. Never happened before, never happened again. If Moses disobeyed, God, am I hearing that right? Am I hearing that right? Put this stick in the Red Sea will part its ways. Am I hearing it? Is that correct? Who in his right mind will do that? I think it's time for me to negotiate with the Egyptian army. I think it's about time for me to negotiate with the Egyptian army, and we will go back to Egypt and become slaves again. I think that's more practical. That is more acceptable. But for me to say to these people, I will part the Red Sea. If Moses disobeyed God, those entire race would be eradicated. We speak of David. And he was to face Goliath. I think I mentioned this during the conference. David was a shepherd boy He doesn't know how to use a spear, a sword, a shield. And when he was about to face Goliath, the army is the best army, highly trained army of Israel came to David and says, David, you have to wear the armor, you have to have the shield, you have to have the spear, you have to have the sword in order for you to face Goliath. Because there's no other way to face that giant without the shield, without the armor, without the sword, without the spear. And you know what David's answer was? I don't know how to use that. And God was telling David, you go on to that field and you face Goliath and just use your slingshot and 5 stones. It doesn't make sense, God. It doesn't make sense. This giant, this almost 8-foot man with 100% muscle, and you want me to just approach with a stone? And just imagine for a second if David disobeyed God. I could tell you stories and stories and stories that could have gone different way if people disobeyed. You probably know my story. In 1999, I got a job offer from, I know, this is 20 years ago. In 1999, I got an offer from a company called AOL. You remember that company? Yeah, remember that company? It's the number. It's the number one internet company back in 1999. And when you connect the internet, you know, you dial, there's a modem. Yeah, it will show up the web. I don't know if you guys are too young back. But there was this manager from AOL who met me and said, Andrew, I want you to work with AOL. We're just beginning a revolution. There was no Facebook back then, there was no Google, there was just AOL. And he said, Andrew, you work with us and you will be part of a revolution. Join with us. We are building a campus in Mountain View, California. We'll help move your company. We'll help move you out in Mountain View. Just work with us. Bear with us with all of the struggles in the growing company, and I can assure you, your life will be different. And I came home and wow, Lee, huh? Oh, wow, I met this guy. And he wants us to move to Mountain View, California. There was this company called AOL. And I'll be working on the internet as a development engineer. And we will make programs for the internet. And that was so exciting. Woo, and we will be part of a revolution. People will use the internet. Oh, whoa. Then when we were praying, God put into my heart, I called you to be a pastor. I didn't call you to be a programmer in Silicon Valley. Baka naman, Pastor, I could give more. If I worked there, I could give more to the church, and probably I could support the church. Not as a pastor, but probably one of their supporters. And I was struggling, but then eventually, to make the story short, I dropped the offer, and I stayed with a church called Filipino International Christian Church. The rest is history. Imagine that. I would have never met all of you. Imagine that. I would have never met amazing brothers and sisters who sticks with me more than brothers and sisters. I know there are times it will be difficult to obey God. But let me tell you this. The only way to grow is through obeying. We have been accepted, embraced by the family, and now we must demonstrate the love and grace we have received by God's one another and to the world. I know there are a lot of Christians, but sometimes Christians also become the stumbling block. When we invite people to church, sometimes we became the stumbling block. When we share the gospel, people doesn't receive the gospel. Sometimes we the Christians are the stumbling block because we don't obey God. There was this story. It's been written that remember Gandhi? Not India, but Mahatma Gandhi, the spiritual leader, the leader of India, said when a missionary asked him, you know what, I like your Christ Christians. I just don't like the Christians. You Christians are so unlike your Christ. If Christians acted like Christ, the whole world would be Christian. The only way that we could really share the gospel is if people will see a changed life in us. If we will learn to obey God, love unconditionally, forgive those who have offended us, give generously, share our lives. That's how we share the gospel. That's how we share the message of hope to the entire world, is through our lives. So be obedient as we grow. Now second, focus on verse 2. So number 1, we grow in obedience. Number 2, be completely humble and gentle, be patient and bearing with one another in love. The second one I'd like for us to remember this morning is the one is we grow in obedience. The second is we grow in our character. We grow in our character. And these are humble, gentle, patient, bearing with one another in love. Let me just go real fast in these 4 characters. What does it mean to be completely humble? Okay. You probably know what humility is, but let me just refresh your memory here. To be completely humble is to have what is called a lowliness of mind. It is to have a mindset of having a humble opinion of yourself. To have a proper heart attitude, you recognize your own littleness. We see too many Christians, too many people who are filled with pride and arrogance because they think they are better than everyone. And the Apostle Paul says, be humble, be completely humble. It is a mindset of how little we are apart from the grace of God. It's simply recognizing that what we have right now, our good health, our good family, our good education, what we have right now comes from God. It is that notion, that idea, that mindset, consciousness that will always remind us that what I have, what we have, that what we are enjoying right now, the blessings that we are receiving is from the Lord. Humble mindset, a proper attitude, recognizing our littleness. I know among Filipino community, mahirap po maging humble. Kasi, I don't know, from one reason or another. our community is known for being not humble. Humble. Alam ka naman po, wala kayo sa lolo ko. Ha? Alam niyo naman dyan. Wala kayo. Ano yan? Talaga naman. We are just so proud. I don't know for what reason. We are just so proud. Have you met a Japanese lately? Japanese are one of the humble people. Kahit na ho, they're short, you cannot intimidate them. Because growing up, they know karate. But you don't know that. You don't know that. No one bullies Japanese, you know that? Nobody. If you watch, I know, yung mga ganon, Karate Kid, huh? But that's very true, huh? Everybody knows karate, huh? So you cannot bully it. But they don't show it off, you know? They don't have tattoo here that have karate, you know? Wala. Sa dibdib nila, on their skin, they have karate. No. They just, tayo, tayo, pumasok lang sa Navy. Talaga naman, tattoo. I'm not against tattoo, okay? I'm not against it. It's a matter of you, it's just a matter of just an attitude of the heart. Attitude of the heart. It really boils down to attitude of the heart. Be humble. The best way to control that, the best way that is to compare ourselves on a daily basis is to Christ. In order for us to be humble, you don't compare yourself to one another. Oh, see, I finished college. You don't compare yourself with one another. You compare yourself to Christ, not to others. That's how you remain humble. You remain loneliness of mind. When you do this should help us from having an overinflated ego. Humility helps us to see our lives as a gift from God. We recognize that all of our abilities and gifts are from God. That's what we have to remember. We don't compare one another. We don't. We simply don't compare. We only compare ourselves with Christ. That will wake us up. Okay, so that's how you remain humble. What about gentleness? Gentleness can also be translated as meekness. People often think those who are gentle and meek are weak. They said when you're meek, you're weak. No, I don't think so. Meekness is strength under control. It's being able to display the right blend of forcefulness and gentleness. Gentleness is a fruit of the Spirit, and it's not something we accomplish on our own. Gentleness is strength in control. Meaning, you have the ability to overcome this, but you put that in control. And that is what we call gentleness. A horse can kick. A horse can kick and run and create a lot of damage. But when the horse is being tamed, that is what we call gentleness. Strength in control. So, when the Apostle Paul says, be gentle, you have the ability, yes, but don't use that ability to dominate. Use the ability to lift up one another and to bless one another. When we understand meekness, it's really a freeing. Where am I? It's really something that it's really freeing rather than something that told us about. We have the freedom to be strong and gentle at the same time. We learn how to be a leader and a servant. At the same time, it is a gift which we can pass on to others if we are willing to lean from Christ, which takes humility. It all goes back to being humble. In order for us to teach the ways of the Lord Jesus Christ, we have to remain humble. Being gentle, for one. Number 3, patience. Patience literally means long suffering. That means we have to wait a sufficient time before expressing anger. Long suffering. Emphasize on long suffering. That's being a patient person. We don't express anger immediately. We hold, we breathe in, breathe out. It also means we have to have a long fuse with other people. Can you imagine if all of us in the church can practice long suffering? There'll be no irritations, there'll be no reactions, it's just understanding them. Is there anyone who irritates you in the church? Meron ba kayong kiniinisan? Kainis. Kainis talaga. Wala. Oh, wow. Long suffering, huh? Now, the reality is there will always be people who will irritate us. Inside, outside the church. That's the reality. Even Christians who have been long in the faith, sometimes they will irritate you, sometimes they will disappoint you. And the reality is, there will also people who will hurt us, intentionally, unintentionally. That's the reality of life. That's why there is what we call patience, long suffering. Long suffering. Humble, gentleness, patience. Because we are all of different characters, different meekness, strength. And that's why there's number 4. That's why the reason Paul also tells us to bear with one another in love. Relationship will always be easy. But to live a life worthy of the calling of Christ means that we will humble, gentle, and patient with each other. And we will bear with each other in love. By God's grace, we'll stick together through thick and thin. This is for the better or for worse part of marriage applied to the church. Imagine that. We are in this journey together through thick and thin. Wala akong divorced in the family of God. Your brother will always be your brother. Your sister will always be your sister. So learn to live with one another. Learn to bear. That's the Bible term. Learn to bear one another. Learn to bear the limitations of your sister. Learn to bear the limitations of your brother. Because that's pretty much it. You think that pag umalis kayo, you'll get rid of this brother, you'll get rid of this sister? No way. You know what? Life has its way of circling back. Yung mga taong kinainisan mo noon, umalis ka, maya-maya, nandiyan na naman. I'm telling you, that's true. Talaga naman po, life, you know what? God designed us for relationship. One way or another. Talaga naman po. Maya-maya, nandiyan na naman. Maya-maya. You try to move them away, you try to eliminate them in your Facebook, social media, you try to hide yourself, and then all of a sudden, you're in the same room with this person. And there's no escaping. That's the message for this morning. Bear one another. Bear one another. You probably heard the news that Brother Joe, the husband of Sister Nora, passed away. And it was just a reunion. We will be planning for the memorial service, and a lot of people will be coming into the memorial service. People you agree with, and people you do not agree with. People you try to hide yourself from, and the people who try to hide themselves from you. Funeral is a reunion. It makes you face the people you try to avoid. That's the reality of life. So I'm telling you this, bear one another in love. And the third and the last, focusing on verse 3, make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit to the bond of peace. The last one is we grow in unity of the Spirit. One of the key points the Apostle Paul makes in this verse is to let us to maintain the unity. Notice he doesn't say to create unity, doesn't create unity, but maintain unity. We do not create unity in the church. Unity comes from our common faith in the Lord Jesus Christ. And I believe that part of that unity is also a supernatural gift from the Holy Spirit to us. Unity, I repeat, unity comes from the Holy Spirit. Unity comes from God. If God knows exactly that a person will not create unity in the church, God in His wisdom will remove that person in the church. If God doesn't remove that person in the church, it simply means God has a purpose for that person to be in the church. There was this, one of the, I think, Toby Mack posted in one of the FilChurch verses, very well said, that God brought people into our lives for seasons. A season for harvest, or a season to reap, or a season for another things. But God brought people into our lives for a season. But eventually that season will come, and that season will go. And we have no choice but to let the seasons of life goes our way. So it's very, very important for us to learn from the seasons of our life. Because we can never, if God removed that person, that's it. If God still keep that person into our lives, that's also it. So, people are seasons. People are seasons. So enjoy, once again, bear with one another. I was reminded, because I'm always fast. I don't know if you watch the shuttle spacecraft in Florida when they're launching. Well, this was back in the days when they're launching the shuttle to space. They have boosters, the shuttle, and then they have these big engines. It will lift up to the sky, and then after 180 seconds. I learned this because when I was in graduate school, one of my classmates works in NASA, and he said that the booster works for 180 seconds. After that, after 180 seconds, that booster will separate. It will fall into the earth, and the shuttle will keep on flying, soaring into the sky. So we have to remember this, church. Some people in our lives are just like the boosters. It will not remain with us until we soar in the sky. Eventually, they will fall off from our lives, and we will keep on soaring in the sky. Church, as we learn to grow in obedience, as we learn to grow in character, may we also learn to grow in unity in the Spirit. Unity does not mean that we all think alike. Unity doesn't mean that what I want is also what you want, and what you want is also what I want. That's not unity. It simply means that when God gave us a calling, that we unite our hearts and our minds in fulfilling what God has called us to do, and that is the unity of the Spirit. Eager to maintain the unity means our speed and desire of maintaining the unity. We are able to speedy and swift at preserving the unity of the church. It means that when there is something wrong, we quickly act to help bring reconciliation. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. When you're in a relationship, when you're all in a church family, there will always be a time that we will always irritate or be irritated by someone. It's not an issue of if, it's a question of when. And when that thing happens, remind yourself, we keep the unity of the Spirit with one another. Learn to reconcile. Remind everyone to be patient, to bear one another, to be gentle. And never fan the fire of negativity. I think I have grown enough to recognize that when someone's negative, you share the positive. When someone is always looking at what things that went wrong, you remind the person what things went right. When that person is always seeing all of the burdens, the problems in life, allow that person to see the blessings that God has blessed that person. Always be the person to always look on the brighter side, because life is beautiful when we are doing the will of God. Enjoy life. Enjoy life to the fullest in the will of God. Because when your time comes, well, that's a different message. When your time comes, whether you like it or not, you will be leaving this world and you will be in the presence of God. But remember this, as long as we are in this side of heaven, let us grow together in all God's purposes.